But how sure can you be? How secure is the area around that house? How well were your helicopters watching the area while he was in there and this was playing out? How sure are you?
I can't answer that right now.
Was still in there.
And you can't say who started the blaze.
No, I don't know. I found out just when I arrived that the cabin was on fire.
Just to confirm, there has been no further gunfire from the home since that fire broke out.
It's my understanding that since the fire began at the cabin, there has been no other gunfire.
And what can you tell the residents of Big Bear and the surrounding area at the moment as the sun is about to set? Is this guy still on the loose?
I can't answer that for you.
But it's a possibility.
What do you want me to do?
Get out of his way.
Cindy, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Cindy,
yes.
Thank you, Cindy. I gotta get a card.
The roads are going to stay closed. I would say for at least a few hours, probably longer.
So it's a few hours. So you heard it, Cindy Cindy.
Well, you're watching extensive CBS 2 News KCAL 9 coverage on the search for murder suspect Christopher Dorner. Here's the latest at 5 o'clock. Flames are pouring from that cabin. You see right in the center of your screen near where Dorner was believed to have been holed up.
Also, one of the San Bernardino County deputies involved in the gun battle with Dorner has died. The other deputy involved in that shootout is in surgery at this hour.
Well, this is all going down right now near Big Bear and Angeles Oaks, near the Seven Oaks Mountain Cabins.
And this is ground video we're about to show you of the cabin on fire that just came into our newsroom. You can see the large number of law enforcement keeping watch. And in fact, our Carter Evans has been in the middle of that gunfight between Dorner and law enforcement earlier this afternoon. We're going to listen into the drama that unfolded from that scene.
Authorities have told us we need to stay low for our safety. Moments ago, we were caught in the middle of this gunfire between Christopher Dorner and authorities. We're told that 2 deputies have been hit by that gunfire. Their condition unknown right now. But take a look on the other side of the land. You can see police. You can see the SWAT team just a little bit down the road. They've got Dorner cornered in a cabin right now. They're preparing to move in, but it is unknown exactly how they're going to go about that at this point. On authorities' side, they have shot some tear gas inside the building, and we haven't heard any gunfire for some time.
200 feet ahead of us right here. We see a lot of these authorities getting moving to cover themselves. I hear some screaming. You heard all that?
George, you got your heavy vest? Yeah, I do. You gonna use it?
No. And Carter Evans has been at the epicenter of this situation all afternoon. He joined us on the phone with his very descriptive reporting. He is just yards away from that tense scene near Angeles Oaks. Carter.
Well, maybe we lost Carter's signal. He is probably attending to breaking news right now as developments are happening. We do know when we last spoke to him, he said it looked as if firefighters were approaching police and trying to figure out when to actually go in if necessary, but the tenseness had calmed. In fact, officers were, to Carter put it, lighting cigarettes, which certainly sounds like the end of something.
Exactly.
Anyway, Gil Lavis is overhead in Sky 2, and Gil has been providing these chopper shots for us. Gil? All right.
Yeah, Pat.
All right, Gil, are you on the air with us?
I'm with you.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
You.
Can you tell us what you're seeing right now? Or if you're even pulled back even further?
We got this shot. Yeah, well, what happened was we were asked to zoom out from the shot that we had earlier by the airships that were overhead. They didn't want us to give away any locations, even though we're about actually 10 miles out. I estimated before about 6 or 7 miles out, but we're more like 10 miles away from the scene. And so you can see the intensity of that flame burning there. We're not allowed to push in any tighter than this, but at this point, it sounds like this fire is well contained. That's good news. The other good news is there's not a whole lot of wind down there that could spread those embers out to the surrounding area. That's also good news. The other thing I can tell you is that the brush clearance around that structure, when we were over it earlier, it looked like it was sufficient enough so that it would not catch any of the brush on fire around that structure. So those are three good points that I can point out here. But again, this fire continues to burn. We've watched it burning hot. We've watched that smoke coming up high. And from what we saw earlier, the entire structure was fully engulfed. And from what Carter Evans was saying on the ground, he was able to see that structure was collapsing. And we can tell by the intensity of the flames right now that that's likely what's happening there.
Gil, you're right. Carter had indicated to us that structure, with the exception of the stone chimney that stood in the middle of that building, virtually everything else was down on the ground at that point in time and still burning. Right now we want to check in with CBS 2's Juan Fernandez. He is live in Big Bear with the latest on the situation where he is located. Juan.
Well, Paul, we are at the very last checkpoint before you get towards those cabins. And where we were located, Pat had asked me earlier if I could see or smell the smoke. The Highway Patrolman you see behind me here, he was telling me that the area where this is going on is there's a dip down. It goes down into a valley, so it's not a very easy place to see what's going on. Now, you can see behind me here, he still has his rifle at the ready. We still have not gotten the all clear here at this location as to whether or not Dorner's body was found inside that burnt out cabin or his whereabouts are. Right now, very calm situation out here. This is, as I mentioned, the last checkpoint where you can get to. This is as far as they're letting the media go. And earlier, we saw lots of rescue crews. We saw lots of San Bernardino Sheriff's trucks. We saw lots of California Highway Patrolmen moving up and down the area, and things got rather quiet. Now, as I say that, just coming down the road here, and we'll show you as soon as they come through, it seems like it's a fire truck or some sort of fire apparatus coming through and most likely heading into the area where Carter Evans is at. And I'm going to get out of the way here so that you can see that vehicle move its way through. This is Big Bear City Fire Department heading down towards the area there, towards the area of the cabin. I guess things have perhaps become safe enough to start getting some of this heavier equipment down the road to help put out the fire and hopefully just contain the flames. And I hear something else coming through. Let me see if somebody else is coming through. No, nothing else is coming through. That's the situation we have right now at this checkpoint here. So again, we are waiting to hear from the officers out here, the California Highway Patrolmen out here, whether or not we're getting the code 4, the all clear, at least when it comes to the threat level. And so far, we aren't getting that. So that's the latest from here, Pat and Paul.
All right, thank you very much, Juan. And we're looking at a live picture again to the right where those flames are still burning. And as Carter mentioned, he reported that fire personnel were on the scene, but were just waiting to advance and waiting on the all clear signal or when it was safe enough for them to actually approach and either begin to put these flames out, whether they can go into that home and retrieve any remains if there are remains there. Now, we can tell you that as a result of the shootout that happened earlier, once officers received a call of a stolen vehicle, there were 2 sheriff's deputies involved in gun battle with presumably Christopher Dorner. Unfortunately and sadly, one of those sheriff's deputies died. The other is hospitalized right now at Loma Linda Medical Center. And we want to go to our Louisa Hodge. She is live at the medical center now with the very latest. Louisa?
Well, there was a news conference that just wrapped up here within this past hour where authorities did confirm that 2 San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies were airlifted to Loma Linda Medical Center here. It happened around 2:30. The helicopter landed on the roof here. One of those deputies was confirmed to die at the hospital. The other deputy was injured and is currently in surgery at this time. I'll have my photographer try to pan off and kind of give you an idea right now of how many deputies and officers are out here we have just swarms of patrol vehicles, marked and unmarked, lining the front of the hospital, along the streets of the hospital. We've still seen patrol cars pulling up here with lights and sirens, people getting out of their vehicles, running into the emergency room here. And during that press conference also, authorities did say that there are law enforcement here from so many different agencies, from police agencies, from sheriff's deputies, and she says that they are all a very tight-knit family, everybody looking out for everyone, and everybody right now is feeling this loss. Back to you.
All right, Louisa. Of course, that brings a number of officers gunned down by, allegedly, by Christopher Dorner to 2, and of course the 2 young people who were killed in Irvine, that also allegedly attributed to Dorner as well. As we have watched this cabin sort of end its death throes here, Pat, to burns to its last embers. That fire's still going. Most of that cabin is down on the ground now. That could be the actual funeral pyre from Christopher Dorner. We'll find that out once this whole thing is extinguished. And
as we were saying, Paul, we don't really know when that's going to happen, because but if there are remains inside that cabin, they certainly would have to be examined, and from what we've seen and listening to Carter, it doesn't look like they would be able to just identify.
Right.
They would probably have to use dental records because of the intensity, so that could even take more time. We may not even know tonight.
They'll do some forensics work. There's no doubt about that, but they'll certainly have all means available to them to go ahead and figure out and positively identify the person who was in there. We should also point out something that Carter mentioned that I think we've neglected for a few minutes here, and that is as they fired that tear gas canisters in there, Carter knew those sounds, and they were very distinct. He said then before that fire erupted, there was the sound of a gunshot from that cabin, from that building. And Carter said deputies and those law enforcement personnel who had that building surrounded had not fired their weapons. So
that
there was speculation
that it could have been some kind of suicide shot, which of course, if you've read this manifesto that Christopher Dorner put on the internet on the 4th of August, he stipulated that he didn't expect to come out of this alive. And anybody in discussing some of the ramifications or the nuances would also speculate that he could possibly take his own life. Now, we might be able to get some more answers right now. However, it's still obviously very fluid. LAPD headquarters downtown is where CBS 2's Randy Page is right now. And Randy, are they giving you any new information?
That's right. Just about an hour ago, Pat, we watched the mayor apparently walking over from City Hall, flanked by LAPD command staff. We tried to wave him over to our position. He said maybe later, went inside the police administration building, where we believe he is watching as this story continues to unfold, as many of the command staff at LAPD have been doing all day long. Many of them feeling a little bit separated from the unfolding events here, because they really did not have anyone, as far as we can tell, up in the Big Bear area today. In fact, there were only about 30 San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies as they continued to search this area, the search really winding down when these events began to unfold. So the LAPD did come down, however, to simply brief us, and they really just gave us a kind of brief sketches of what had happened there. Fact information we had already been reporting. But notice as you listen to Commander Andy Smith here, these are comments he made at 3 o'clock today, how careful the LAPD is being. They do not want to say this is Christopher Dorner. They simply are saying they hope it is over. Let's listen in.
Well, everyone is very hopeful that this thing ends without any further bloodshed. We hope we can take this guy into custody, and we hope that he doesn't hurt anybody else. We hope none of these officers was seriously injured, which we don't know at this point. The best thing for him now would be to surrender and allow us to take him into custody, and he can face the criminal justice system. There's a tremendous sense of apprehension among our officers here, concern about the officers that are up there, and until this guy's in handcuffs and until he's in custody, none of the people in our department are going to rest.
Now, Commander Smith saying that while he was making these comments at 3 o'clock this afternoon, those 50 families, those 50 officers and their families with protection details standing by continue to be protected. In fact, he said LAPD continues to follow up more than 1,000 leads as they continue to watch these events unfold in Big Bear. They are not yet ready to say that they are certain it is Christopher Dorner, and they want to make certain their investigation continues and their people stay safe, saying their #1 priority at this point is the safety of the public, including the officers at the LAPD. Live at Police Administration Building, Randy Page, back to you.
All right, Randy, thank you very much. When they do identify this person, and if it is Christopher Dorner, there will certainly be a very, very large sigh of relief by law enforcement from all agencies in Southern California. Christy Fajardo right now is along Highway 38 with some new information for us as well. Christy.
Yeah, Paul, it appears that after days of searching, the manhunt for Christopher Dorner has come down to a burning cabin. And to tell us more, I am joined by Cindy Bachman, who's the Public Information Officer for the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. We're still seeing lots of resources going up Highway 38. What's the latest?
The latest is that the cabin that the suspect was barricaded in is now on fire, and there hasn't been any additional gunfire coming from the cabin since the fire started.
And you have reason to believe, you said that the cabin is surrounded, you have reason to believe he's still inside?
We do have reason to believe that he's still inside, and we do believe that it's Christopher Dorner because the victims of the vehicle theft said that he matched the description of Christopher Dorner, and his actions since then lead us to believe that it is him. However, we have not absolutely confirmed that.
So this started actually with two people calling saying that their car had been stolen by someone matching Christopher Dorner's description. The suspect eventually abandoned that pickup, then holed up inside the cabin. There was ensuing gunfire. 2 deputies were shot. We understand one is deceased and the other one?
The second deputy is in surgery, and he is expected to survive.
And how did the fire start?
I don't know how the fire started.
And fire personnel has not been able to put out the fire or go inside the cabin at this point?
No, we won't allow them to get close to the cabin because we believe there's an armed and dangerous subject inside, and there's ammunition in there, and it's just not safe for them. So they'll stand by and wait until we determine that it's safe for them. And
you don't believe the suspect could have gotten out of the cabin?
I only have information that the investigators there have given me, and they believe that he's inside.
And we're seeing lots of SWAT activity up there. Can you elaborate a little on that?
I believe SWAT responded immediately when the call came in that this could be Christopher Dorner, and they have been actively involved in the barricaded situation.
And, I'm sorry, I know that the booth, you're trying to ask a question. Could you please repeat that? Is SWAT tearing down the walls of the cabin? Do you have any information on that?
I don't know. I've been standing out here talking to reporters for the last 20 minutes, and I haven't gotten an update, so I don't know what they're doing at this time.
And, the light, we are losing light. How important is it to take advantage of the light that's left?
Well, it's important because it makes things easier, and we can move quickly when it's light out. However, we do have air support, and they have plenty of light that they can provide on the ground, and we also have portable lights that have been brought in.
And you said you had air support, and we did see what looked like a reconnaissance plane. Have they been watching the cabin? So would they have seen if someone had escaped?
I don't know. I don't know exactly what their role is and where they were at the time that he barricaded himself in the cabin.
Cindy Bachman, thank you very much. That's the latest from here. Let's send it back to you.
All right, Christy, thank you for that. We'd like to know information, obviously, if they are helping to tear down the walls, so to speak, or if officers have approached this cabin. Last we heard from Carter Evans, they were still in a defensive mode, but a little more relaxed and sort of letting the fire burn itself out. However, we know that firefighters have been on the scene now for the last 20 minutes or so. Not sure if they are extinguishing at this time. The fire still looks to be burning. So according to Carter, also, he seemed to indicate that the building had started to collapse, that the chimney was still intact at the time, but it was falling in on itself, the roof, and the structure was actually melting, which would lead us to believe that if there was someone inside, they certainly would not be alive. And I still find it interesting that Cindy Bachman, the spokesperson for San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, says, from every indication of words that she has received from fellow law enforcement, that they believe that he is still inside the cabin, and that is presumably Christopher Dorner, or there is a strong possibility that it is Christopher Dorner.
Yeah, I do think that's the biggest thing that she had to say right there, Pat. Without expressly stating it, she certainly implied it very vigorously that it's Christopher Dorner inside that cabin. And we heard from Carter Evans, as he pointed out all afternoon, a couple of times the afternoon, from being right there on the scene, that the law enforcement officers on the front line who were surrounding that cabin, they too believed that that was their man. That was Christopher Dorner inside that cabin. Carter said there wasn't much doubt in their minds. Right now, I think we have Derek Bell in Sky 2 above the scene. And Derek, what can you tell us? What's going on?
That's right. Well, we're taking this long look at it, at least 5 miles away, of course. As you can see, we've got a fire that's burning off into the distance. We do believe that is the cabin that we were all discussing just a moment ago, the cabin that Christopher Dorner apparently commandeered. The fire looks like it's just taken about its complete toll on the house. Light, as you can see, is going down. The shadow is getting very, very long right now. It does not appear that there's any water being put on the fire right now. It's just letting it burn out. So again, the cabin that we believe that Christopher Dorner was holed up in apparently is a complete loss right now and is burning itself out. Again, from about 5-6 miles away now, looking across from 11,000 feet. This is the best shot that we're going to be able to get for right now.
All right, Gil, thank you. And maybe we can keep the shot up on one side of the screen and also talk to Juan Fernandez, who was live in Big Bear. And at the time, Juan, I know you said you weren't able to see the smoke from where you are, even though you're not very, very far. But what can you tell us about CHP? Are they still, when we last saw you, you said they had the guns at the ready. They seem to be in a lighter mode now?
Yeah, Pat, I've started to see a little bit more movement here. Another California Highway Patrol cruiser just showed up here. Let me see behind me here. You can see here's the patrolman who's been here all afternoon with us, still with the rifle at the ready. He tells me he patrols this area, Highway 38. He's very familiar with this area, and he was telling me that the cabins where it's located not too far from where we're standing here. We also saw just a little while ago a fire engine come down Highway 38 towards the area where Carter is at, the area where the cabin is at as well. Again, this is Highway 38, Jenks Lake Road. It's about 20 miles away from Big Bear City. And again, this is like the last checkpoint where we are allowed to go to where the cabin is. So the situation right now, it's still evolving out here. As I said, I saw a few more cars come through here. I saw a fire engine come through here, some extra highway patrolmen come through here. So we're waiting to see. I keep giving him the thumbs up or the thumbs down or the nod and see if anything's changed. And so far, he says nothing has changed. The highway patrolman behind me here. So again, we're waiting word to see what they find out, investigators, once they are able to approach that cabin not too far from here. Pat?
All right.
Okay, Juan, you know, Paul, we were talking, and Juan, if you're still listening, that even once they go inside and they retrieve any remains, it's still going to take a while for them to run dental records if they have to even identify that that was indeed a body inside. And I don't know if the light of darkness has anything to do with that, possibly not, but they still will have to go through and search to see if they can find anything. So it you know, the more light, the better. But the way it looks now, if you don't see anyone putting any trying to extinguish that fire, just makes me wonder why they're letting it burn out as they are.
You know, my suspicion is they might, in all likelihood, once darkness falls upon this crime scene, bring in portable generators and fire up some huge, huge lights and go ahead and do everything they can to preserve the crime scene, which of course is the actual cabin, what remains of that cabin, and the human remains that they'll find inside. And you know, if I don't know, I'm certainly not a forensic scientist, but I do watch CBS, and if there's a body in there and there's a skull in there, they would be perhaps be able to tell just through visual observation whether or not this person put a gun up to their head and shot themselves. So that might come rather quickly. Depends on how intense that fire, I guess it was, you know, regarding the bones that might be inside that building.
Well, that would be the quickest if there was
a
bullet hole in that person's skull, if that is the case. And I'm certainly talking in hypotheticals here, because I know we like to report and we like to be first and fast with information, but again, we still have to confirm that there is a body even in this cabin. And it's just nature. That's as these crime scenes go, we've heard reports whether true or not, or why there was speculation as to this person possibly leaving this area and ending up in a horse corral. We have not heard any further information about that. But as fluid as this situation has been and the twists and turns that this story has taken, it's almost impossible not to say anything is impossible.
Boy, that's true.
Right?
That's a fact, yeah. You know, the LAPD has been involved in this joint task force regarding this entire scenario ever since it first began. And today they didn't actually Bigfoot the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. We heard from Commander Andy Smith, who said that, you know, we have personnel on the standby at the San Bernardino airport. They're ready to help if we're, in fact, called for help from the Sheriff's Department. But Commander Smith expressed great confidence in the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department and said, we're at the ready, but they have a SWAT team. They know what they're doing. They're ready to go. But nonetheless, they were in contact. LAPD higher-ups were in contact all afternoon with their man on the scene with the Joint Task Force, and information was flowing freely to the Los Angeles Police Department downtown. Randy Page has been down there all afternoon, and I think he can join us now with some new information. Randy.
That's right, Paul. The LAPD command staff making it clear they are, in fact, in constant communication with San Bernardino County Sheriffs. Also, we are aware of a number of resources, as you mentioned, that deployed to the Big Bear area and clearly on the ground there. So they are in communication, and we were told that when they have any definitive information, they will come downstairs here and provide that information to us. And we have not yet seen any sign of that. We can tell you that Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa did go into the police administration building about an hour or so ago and said that he might be able to talk to us later. So the LAPD clearly is taking a little bit of a hands-off at this point, recognizing this is San Bernardino County Sheriff's crime scene there and in their active investigation, standing by to help if there any resources are needed, but again, in constant communication with San Bernardino. So we are told when they have any information, they will bring it downstairs, and we'll bring it to you live just as soon as they come down. But Paul and Pat, I can tell you that there are many LAPD eyes watching the coverage here, both from the homes of the many 50 or more families with protection details, as well as literally hundreds of other officers who are watching these events unfold, hoping that it's over. Live from the Police Administration Building, I'm Randy Page. Back to you.
You're certainly right about that, Randy. And let's also just remember how this started and why LAPD was involved in the first place. Sometimes this seems to get lost over the past couple of days. Even we talk about an ex-rogue officer in San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department actually taking a lead because this is in Big Bear, but this is an ex-officer of the LAPD. And the reason, he says, according to his manifesto, Christopher Dorner's manifesto, that the reason this started all began 5 years ago when he was released from the department. He says wrongly. However, there was a hearing. There have been 2 court cases since then that still upheld the findings of the hearings to terminate Mr. Dorner from LAPD. But in his manifesto, he vowed to take revenge on the entire LAPD department, not only LAPD officers, but their family members as well. So that is certainly one of the main reason that LAPD especially wants this to be resolved. In the interim, an LAPD captain's daughter was shot and killed last Sunday along with her fiance. Also a public service officer, a Riverside County officer, was fired upon by presumably Christopher Dorner, lost his life, and now today we have reports that a San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department official or deputy has lost his life and another is in the hospital. And when I think about Thursday, that's when we first noticed Dorner's burned out truck in San Bernardino County. There have been well over hundreds of law enforcement personnel searching the area with heat-seeking devices on helicopters, bloodhounds. They have searched, I believe, at least 600 homes on foot and by vehicle looking for Christopher Dorner, and apparently it has come down to this. But we want to go to Louisa Hodge, who is at Loma Linda University Medical Center now. She can give us hopefully an update on that sheriff's deputy's condition. Louisa?
Well, there was a news conference here at Loma Linda Medical Center, and that is when authorities did confirm that 2 San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies were airlifted here. One of those deputies, they tell us, did die at the hospital. The other one has injuries, is in surgery at this current hour. The helicopters, when we arrived here around 2:30,